Hello, I'm Freya Inanna, co-founder of Inanna Sanctuary, and today we're here to talk about shame and trauma, coping versus healing. As we move through life, we all experience shame and trauma at some level. This shame and trauma impacts all areas of our lives. The triggers that we experience as a result of these stored traumas affects us significantly in our workplace, in our homes, in the way we're able to interact with our families, our children, other family members, our friends, just everything in day-to-day living. And probably the most significant area of our lives that's impacted by our traumas, those triggers that come up, is our intimate relationships. So often what's going on really has nothing to do with our current relationship. Our past is intruding on it. Stored trauma creates uncontrollable visceral response in our bodies. The extremes of this are fight or flight and freeze response. What lies between these two extremes is the numb zone. The numb zone is that window of tolerance between the two extremes where people are focused on avoiding their triggers and just essentially walking on eggshells all around their life, and so is everyone else around them. In the numb zone, you end up crafting your life around your triggers, often experiencing sexual disinterest or dysfunction, and a fear of really feeling your emotions. And what you can count on is that coping mechanisms will always fail eventually. Knowing all this, one must ask the question, is there no escape? Is this really my life? I say no, this is not acceptable. No, we were not meant to live our lives trapped between trauma responses. The only reason we even tolerate this is because we have been fed a lie. The lie we've been fed is simple, widespread, and insidious. It's that stored trauma is permanent, and that healing consists of learning to live with it. We're sold coping mechanisms as a form of healing, and in reality, coping mechanisms alone leave us trapped and hopeless. Coping mechanisms are many and can include addiction, medications, denial or avoidance, obsession, and distraction. Some people are even able to use their trauma as a fuel source to drive their success, only to discover that trauma as a fuel source is not a sustainable strategy for lasting success. They either end up failing in their business or crashing in their personal lives. The truth is, stored trauma can be healed, and by this I mean released from the body permanently. Trauma must be healed if we wish to live joyful, fully actualized lives. Real healing is not living with triggers. It is not living in the cycle of coping and avoidance, and it is not living numbed out on our precious lives. What real healing looks like is deep connection with self and others, real intimacy and pleasure in relationships, and living your life joyful and freely expressed. And remember, the trauma-limited version of you can never live your destiny. You can learn more about the trauma cycle by clicking here or going to www.inannasanctuary.com/trauma cycle. If you are done being in that cycle of triggers, re-traumatization, coping, avoidance, and numbness, it's time to step out of that illusion that the healing is not possible. You really can have it all if you dare to discover and be all of you. Are you ready?